We're going to have Ali now demonstrate some low back strengthening exercises. We're going to start off with a pretty basic exercise nicknamed the Superman exercise. So go ahead and get in position. Essentially it's an all-four position, and what you want to do is you want to then lift your left arm and your right leg simultaneously. The points of this is maintaining balance on the side that your knee is on the ground with, and really holding that steady position. You can hold this for a couple seconds, a good solid 2 count there, and then switch sides. 1, 2, switch. Some instructions will tell you to hold this a little bit longer. I prefer about the 2-second interval. And this is a great way to reinforce what's also called the cross crawl pattern. So when you're a baby and you are starting to crawl, what you do is you use your right arm and your left knee. In that same manner, we're having the this cross crawl pattern reinforced in Ali's spine. Good. From this position, go ahead and get on your stomach for me, please. I'm going to have Ali do what's called a back extension exercise. This is a great exercise typically for patients with bad lumbar discs. So essentially what I want you to do, Ali, is to contract your glutes, contract your legs, contract and lift your feet off the ground, as well as lifting your neck and upper back off the ground as well. What she should feel is a nice contraction in her low lumbar spine, and this is a great exercise to strengthen the muscles in her low back. Hold that for about 2.5 to 3 seconds, relax, and do it again for me, Ali. Great. Again, go ahead and down, and up again for me. Great. You want to do sets of 12 of this, and you want to do at least 2 sets. Great. From this position, Ali, I'd like you to go onto your back for me. Good. Have Ali do what's called a pelvic tilt. And this is a very interesting exercise. It's a very, very subtle motion, but what it does is it's a core strengthening exercise. So what it does is it strengthens her lower abs, but in addition to that, it causes a co-contraction in what's called the intrinsic muscles of her low back, namely her multifidi muscles, her interspinalis muscles, her intertransversarii muscles that are responsible for posture in your low back. And it's a great exercise to help strengthen those muscles, as it's very difficult to strengthen those muscles otherwise. So essentially what we're having Ali do is pushing the small of her back against my fingers. So go ahead, that's perfect right there, Ali. Good. And then relaxing and having that lordosis come back up. So essentially what you can imagine is her spine has a normal curvature that looks like this, and she's going to flatten out that curvature, and then she's going to get back that curvature. So go ahead and do it again. That's great. And relax. And do it again. And you want to rotate your pelvis just a little bit more. There you go. Relax again, and do it again for me. This is kind of a tricky exercise to do. You're not going to be sure if you're doing it entirely correctly the first few times you do it. You want to make sure that you're having somebody who knows what they're doing show you exactly what you're doing, as you want to make sure that it's such a small motion that you really have to make sure that you're doing it correctly so that you're gaining the full benefits of this exercise. I'd like you to do what's called a plank exercise. So again, this is another core exercise that's going to strengthen her abs. Essentially what you're looking for is to drop this part down just a little bit. There you go. And put your knees in together just slightly right there. And pretty much you just want to hold this position. It's going to strengthen your abdominal muscles as well as strengthen your low back to some extent. And you want to hold this pose for about 25 to 30 seconds depending on your abilities. Good, Ali. That feels okay so far? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. From this position, I want you to go on to do what's called a side plank. And this is going to strengthen your oblique muscles, which is a very, very important muscle when dealing with low back issues. Good. And just make sure that you're nice and vertical, up and down. And again, you want to hold this pose for about 25 to 30 seconds. A little bit longer if you can, a little bit less if you can't. Good. Go ahead on your back again for me. In this position, we want to do what's called a bridge exercise. So essentially what we want to do is have Allie lift her pelvis, and what we're really looking for here is a straight line between her knees, her hips, and her shoulders. And you want to hold this pose for about 10-15 seconds at a time. Good. From this position, another variation of this exercise is what's called the marching bridge, where she then lifts her leg and then puts it back down and switches sides, all the while making sure that she maintains that nice line between her knees, her hips, and her shoulder. And switch that. Give me one more. Great. And that concludes some of the basic exercises for low back strengthening.